All right. Good evening, everyone. It's 7:01. I'd like to call together the September 12th, 2024 school committee meeting. If you would all please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. All right, great. Back to be good to be back in session. A lot of familiar faces in the room. It's nice to see everybody. This evening we have the consent agenda posted as well as the oath of bills and payroll. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Motion made by Stacy,
Second.
seconded by Bino. Elaine's online, so this will be we'll do a roll call vote, right, Dorothy? Because Elaine's online.
Yeah.
All right, so this will be a roll call vote. Elaine, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can. Perfect. Good testing.
Awesome.
I'll call on you first, Elaine, for your vote to accept the consent agenda and the oath to bills and payroll.
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Bino,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and Justin votes aye as well. All right, this is our first opportunity for interested citizens. So if we have anybody with us this evening that would like to speak before the school committee or anybody on Zoom.
Okay.
Okay, there's a second opportunity at the tail end of the meeting. This is our recognition portion of the evening, so we're pleased to have two new student representatives with us. And this is typically the portion of the meeting where you would give the student committee student representatives report. I need to slow down. I just got here 2 minutes ago. I'm like, fumbling my words. Why don't we start by both of you introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about, give us your background, and then you can give the report, if that's okay. But welcome. We're pleased to have you.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Schcmte. I'm a senior at Littleton High School. And yeah, I'm excited to be a student rep for the year. Great.
And then my name is Raquel Rodriguez. I'm also a senior in high school, and I am excited as well to be granted this opportunity.
Welcome. Yes, excited to have you.
Do we have a student representative's report this week? We do. Okay, great. Take it away.
So for Shaker Lane would like to welcome all families back to the 2024 and 2025 school year. On Tuesday evening, they had their back to school night, which was very well attended. They would like to thank families for taking time out of their day to attend this informational meeting. Shaker Lane has already started to plan several fun events for students, including the book fair, which will be coming up in a few weeks, and they look forward to having another great year with students and families. For Russell Street, the Russell Street School welcomes everyone back to a new year. Many families came to see the school over the summer during the 3 orientation days, and their doors will be open again in a few weeks. Russell Street teachers and students are already back at hard work implementing their new literacy curriculum, Wit and Wisdom. Russell Street School is excited to join Shaker Lane School as well for its upcoming cultural fair in October. Mr. McDonald, Russell Street's new principal, is excited to join the Littleton community and partner with families, students, and teachers, and the community members for another fantastic year.
Perfect.
And from the middle school got off to a good start to the school year. They hosted their back to school night on Monday. They're very excited to welcome returning families and meet new ones. And they had their picture day today. And the high school also was excited to get back into the school year. We hosted our back to school night last Thursday. We welcomed new families and continued to meet with new ones. On Monday, we had our club fair where we gave students the opportunity to explore some of the extracurricular opportunities available to them at our school. Our picture day is being arranged for tomorrow. Our first home football game was rescheduled due to the Triple E outbreak. And next week, colleges will begin visiting Littleton High School to talk to students about the opportunities they provide, how students can take advantage of them. And finally, we have our senior college planning night for parents. That'll also happen next week.
So, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. The student representatives report is always a great part of the meeting. We realize that perhaps you folks are involved in a number of activities, so don't ever feel the pressure to stick until 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night if we have a long meeting. Over the course of the year, we talked about this during our summer retreat. Feel free to be called on if you have any input or any questions for the speakers, or if you'd like to offer any student perspective feedback to the school committee over the course of the year. That's why you're here, and we'd love to hear from you as much as possible.
Thank you.
Okay? Very good. Next up, Superintendent Kelly Clenchue will provide an update on Boston Magazine recognition.
And I actually have a few more, so
That was the only one listed, and then others. So I know you've got a bunch.
I always like the other.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another great school year, first school committee meeting of the year. First acknowledgement, Leah Botko, our food services director, held a luncheon yesterday and was visited by 30 representatives from the USDA, Agricultural Marketing Service, and the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture Resources, and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to learn more about our lunch program. Through Leah's leadership, we've received recognition for both the state and federal levels, which is really impressive. And they wanted to see firsthand how we prepare and offer nutritious lunches to our students and staff. And they did see firsthand yesterday. We had a wonderful lunch, and it was great to be able to connect with people from the federal USDA and Department of Agriculture and DESE. And we do have a really unique program in Middleton, one that we are proud of and we should continue to be proud of. And it's through Leah's leadership and staff's creativity that we're able to continue to get this recognition. They pointed out a number of things. First of all, we're very committed to using local farms for our produce and vegetables and also local areas for our proteins as well. And one other thing they were very impressed with is Leah more correctly has encouraged and been successful at incorporating different cultural foods into the menu. And over the 3 years that she's been here, I've been really impressed with what she can do with vegetables, certain vegetables that people don't even want to look at. And yesterday we had a beet goat cheese combination, and you know our students like that, and that's really good because they're experimenting. They love the salad bar, and our meals are high quality. It's as Justin pointed out, it's like going to a restaurant, and you don't find that in many school cafeterias if you remember when you were in school. So kudos to the team, and I'd like to thank the 3 school committee members that were able to attend. It's always nice when we have company at these events. And if any of you would like to comment, feel free to do so.
That was by far the most delicious lunch I had all week. I would say you all are lucky, but also really appreciate Leah's commitment, and she recognized her staff a lot, which also big kudos to them. In both the diversity of food, the freshness, and the farms were there also, which was amazing. It's really, we're so lucky to have that in the very small school district we have and to be recognized the way we have. So big props to that team.
Thank you.
Yep, I'll just add, I mean, there aren't a lot of school committee perks, but being an invited guest to a Littleton public schools lunch, it was a special occasion. It was a very nice lunch. We had haddock. It was wonderful. But the team, I mean, Leah said it during her presentation. She said, we want to run this more like a restaurant. And that's the way that she's got the staff trained, and everyone knows their job and they can rely upon one another. And the output is just absolutely fantastic. So to any parents listening, lunches are free, and it's likely very much better than what you could put together in 5 or 10 minutes as everybody's rushing out the door. So I encourage everyone to try the lunches, and Aaliyah's got a lot of data to show that participation is way up. So we know we're not obviously grabbing everyone, but she does a wonderful job with the presentation, the food quality, the nutritional value. It's a home run for us. So
I'm so excited to see Littleton as a leader in something like this. And I think it's such a great situation where we've passed a progressive policy at the state level, and it's allowed us to create this wonderful program that is growing. What was most exciting to me, besides just like the quality of everything that was happening, was hearing about the food hub in Worcester that is starting to move this kind of offering throughout our state. So it's not just us children everywhere being able to enjoy these kinds of healthy lunches. And our food sources, our farms, our small farms being able to sell more and provide more to local schools, which I know that's what they want to do. You know, farmers are in this to provide food. So that Worcester Food Hub is something that is developing because we're using them and we led the way, and that's very exciting to me. I would small bit when these things come up and there's a federal agency, there's a state that's that's recognizing us. I would like us to remind each other that maybe our Congresswoman Trahan, our state representatives would love to know this is happening because they are also part of this story and they help facilitate these things happening more. So you know, it helps them also. They like to know that these wonderful things are happening because they hear all the complaints. So
Sure they do.
anytime we can share a happy story, it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you for saying that. Second acknowledgement, I'd like to formally welcome our Russell Street principal, Mr. McDonald. He started the job in July. Probably seems like it's probably longer than that for you, but that's okay. It just happens when you transition into a new leadership position. And we're really excited to have Mr. McDonald on our leadership team. So welcome and welcome to your first school committee.
You're gonna thank something clapping.
Yeah, we're a fun group. So in your package, you have a community postcard and we also handed out a sample to you. This is one of the ways that we're striving to reach out to all of our community members beyond our school committee or community more correctly. I'd like to thank Michelle Kane and Studio G for putting this postcard together. QR codes are a wonderful thing to have, and our community can just click on that QR code, take us to our website, and there's an opportunity for them to ask questions as well. And this is one of many ways that we're going to begin to try to get the word out and make sure that everybody knows we're on the second stage of the Shaker Lane project, and it's called feasibility study. And within the next month or so, we're going to have a better idea of what that project might look like. It might be a addition, renovation, or it might be a new school. And that's the whole purpose of the feasibility study, is to determine what the best fit would be for our community. I have to say, Studio G, the architect we've been working with, has been wonderful. They've offered fantastic guidance to us. We've seen a lot of schools that have been built in the past 5 years. We came back with a lot of great ideas. And we're really looking for schools that are built and designed for students, in this case, pre-K to 2 students, and have configurations that promote 21st century learning. So we're all excited about that. Our staff have been involved, heavily involved over the summer. We've got community, central office staff involved in a number of meetings. I've lost count of the number of meetings that we've had, but it's been a very rewarding process. When we finally submitted the PDP, I sent a picture of the binder that we were sending in, and it is a huge document. But as we were working through that document, there's a lot of pride in that document. When we're finally ready to send it, we all looked at each other and felt really good about the work that we've done. And it wasn't just us; it was the staff and the community members and school committee members that helped mold what the future Shaker Lane School should look like for its students and staff. So excited to continue the process. And we'll talk a little more about that later on, but go ahead, Janine.
Okay. It's now a good time for questions.
Sure.
But is there an opportunity to hold a public listening session before the town meeting?
We do have one on the 18th of October. Let me go with my agenda here. So we have a 16th of October is an opportunity to just listen, and we'll be able to again tell our story in terms of where we're at in the process. And the meeting right after that, October 23rd, they're going to be hybrid meetings. They're going to be held here, the police station community room. Well, that will give us an opportunity to talk about what we hope we will have learned from MSBA. And we'll have a better idea of costing at that time and schematic. So things are happening fairly fast, which is good because it is an elongated process. We're going to have a 5 or 6 year process from beginning to end. And there are a lot of hurdles to jump through when you're dealing with another entity for money that will help us pay for that project. And they're a great organization to work with. They're very structured, and building projects of this magnitude, you really do need to be structured. So I appreciate their guidance throughout the process.
That sounds wonderful. So if you want any help with the sessions that will invite the public to ask more questions, be heard a little bit more, anything we can do to help publicize that. I just think it's very, very important that members of our public are heard and have as much opportunity. I was just very kind of curious. I have seen informational presentations at town meeting. I feel like town meeting is where we go to do business. And we have agendas and the business comes up and we vote and we move on. And so I wasn't sure how long, like how this fit into something like a town meeting.
Well, what we're trying to do is create opportunities for input. And, the town meeting is a typical venue where you do a presentation. You're capturing hopefully a bigger audience, but it's only part of the process. The more we talk about this, the more we engage in conversations, the more fulfilling the process will be.
Okay, I just was curious about that. Thank you.
And I agree 100%. We need to think of ways, and we rely on Studio G to help us because they've gone through a number of projects and have had PR outreach, and so they're guiding us through the process as well. But every community is unique unto itself. You have to take that into account. So anything that you can do as a school committee to help spread the word and answer questions, send them to the Shaker Lane Building Committee if there's some information you're not sure about. It's a community project. It's not a school project. It's a community project, and whatever we do is going to be in Littleton for the next 50 or 60 years. We want to make sure that people feel good about what we're doing, and also are excited about doing something with Shaker Lane School, whatever that may be. So, thank you for bringing that up.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Kelly, do you have any, it's a good point. Do you have any idea where this falls on the agenda for town meeting?
I think it's at the very beginning.
Okay.
I can double check.
I don't know what town meeting looks like this October, or what needs to be covered in terms of I know the ordinary business, but what else is gonna be on there? And I know, we start to lose a crowd at some point in time.
I think it's from when I talked to the assistant town administrator. I'm pretty sure it's close to the beginning or right at the beginning, and I'll double check. I haven't seen the warrant articles yet myself yet, so I'm not sure what's on.
Well, there won't be a vote associated with it.
No, this is strictly information.
Strictly information.
Yeah, but
I would lead with that too.
yeah, Justin has a great point. As the meeting goes on for 2-3 hours, we see
2
our
to 3,
population
I
starting
sure
to fade. And sometimes they're there for things that they're interested in, and it's understandable. Some of them have children at home, others are already put in a 10-hour day, and it's just part of the process. So I'll definitely have a conversation with the town administrator.
Sure, knowing that it's a 10-minute spot and there's not gonna be a line of people at the microphone after the presentation, because it's really just informational only.
Exactly,
If we could get towards the first third of the meeting, that'd be great.
for sure. Thank you. So we have a lot of things happening already in our district. It's hard to believe we've only been back for maybe a couple of weeks, but Mrs. Steele and our high school facing history teacher, Mrs. McManus, worked together to organize 2 community events, and they're in your package. If you can maybe scroll through that. Steve. And the first event is called the Dawnland Film Screening. It'll be held on October 21st at 6 p.m. at the LHS Auditorium. Our second community event will be held on Wednesday, March 19th at 6 p.m. again at the LHS Auditorium. And this event is titled A Book Talk with Schcmte. These events are funded by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Genocide Education Grant. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Steele if you would like to add anything to that.
We'll send out some more information, more details, as the dates approach, and we have some information ready to go out about the Dawnland film screening and Q&A. There are 2 individuals who will be there that evening. One is a producer of that documentary, and the other is an individual who was involved in the situation that Dawnland is actually about. So we're looking forward to welcoming them and having that screening together.
Thank you.
In some screen.
Oh. And it's really exciting to team up with a teacher on staff. Facing History is a wonderful course. Our students are really receptive and are eager to take the course. And anything we can do to engage our community more in those areas are helpful to our community as well. They have a better understanding of what our high school students are learning at the high school level. And that's it for my acknowledgements. Oh, I'm sorry, Boston Bank. I can't forget that one. Let's go back. Boston Magazine. I can't believe I'm moving on to the agenda. Very proud to announce that we ranked 7th place in the top high schools in the greater Boston area. Last year we ranked 6th. We've been on that top 10 list for a number of years. And I'd just like to say it's not an easy list to be on. I mean, sometimes you take it for granted because we're on it more often than not. There's a lot of hard work from our students, our staff, and our families, right from pre-K to grade 12. And it's important to note that the successes of the high school are not only due to the great work that our administration and staff do at that school, but it also is a testament to everything that happens in all of our other schools as well. So very proud of this ranking, and it's important for me to state that sometimes when we look at these rankings, we say, oh, they're just looking at the top students, and that's not true. In order to get on this list, they look at all students with all scores. And I think that's important for everybody to understand. They're looking at all of our students and all of our subgroups and determining whether or not with their cut scores, we make that the top 10. So again, congratulations. Very proud of the work we do in our district, and this is just one of many examples of how we're recognized beyond the community level.
Perfect. Thanks, love to share. We're going to move into our new business portion of the meeting, but I just wanted to highlight the blue box on the agenda. This came out of our summer workshop. So as we roll through some of the presentations, if you find it applicable, I just wanted to read that the focus for tonight's meeting is the alignment to the district strategic plan standard number 4, climate and culture, foster a respectful and responsive culture that creates a safe, secure learning and work environment. The essential question is, how have the schools created welcoming environments for returning students and staff? And I know you were obviously going to cover that, but I just wanted to highlight that those are some of the key things we're listening for this evening. So first up, likely not applicable to that, but as we'll take them in order, it's the Shaker Lane building update. So Stacy and Kelly are going to lead the presentation on this.
Yeah, we definitely have lots to update. So I'll start and then Kelly can kind of fill in as we go along. First, I want to say for anyone who's been working on the building committee, it almost didn't seem like the school year had really ended, because there have been over a dozen meetings that we've had throughout the summer to stick to the very strict deadline that the MSBA has us held to in order to make deadlines to get this project done. So a big thank you to Michelle Kane, who's hiding back there, Lynn Snow, Elizabeth Steele, Steve, Kelly. You guys have worked very diligently this summer and put in, I know, a lot of hours to get this done. I really do. I just wanted to call that out and say we really do appreciate your effort on that, because it was a very busy summer for us. So throughout the summer, since April, May. We've had over a dozen meetings, visioning meetings. We've had them with leadership, educators, parents, community members. Everybody's really had a lot of input in so far as to kind of what the pie in the sky concept can be for Shaker Lane right now. We've worked very, very closely with our OPM and our architects to figure out how we can turn that vision into an actual building that works for our school district. So over the summer, that was all put together and we were presented with, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 different options for Shaker Lane building. We had to look through a lot of the pros and cons of all of our different options. Some were in a different location, over in Wickham Fields. One of them was just a complete code upgrade, which would be the Shaker Lane would stay as it is. Right now, we are bursting at the seams. So that one was very quickly taken off the list as an option. We need to either add on to it or we need to build an entirely new building. So there's a lot of details to it, but I just wanted to give kind of broad strokes. So we have to provide MSBA with 3 options for them to review. So we had to send in a PDP, which was submitted to the MSBA recently, where we offered them, our 3 options were, one option is a renovation and an add-on. We have to contribute that to the MSBA as part of our kind of criteria. That has to be one of the options. And our other 2 was actually just doing a completely new building in the upper field of Shaker Lane. So keeping it in the Shaker Lane fields, there's soccer fields and baseball fields all along there. We would use that space for a new building. So the students would stay in the current building while the new building is built, and then that would get demolished. So that's having a new building in the upper field. And then the next option that we presented was a new building in the lower field, which is just another part of that area back there. So MSBA has to review that. I think they have 21 days, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks to review that. They come back to us and then we kind of really dive deep into lots more detail. Cost analysis, we start looking at different sites. We start kind of going in, digging into the different sites, seeing what we could run into, having way more community meetings with everybody. So like Kelly said, we have October 16th and October 23rd at 7 p.m. We'll be having meetings here for community input. And I think you can explain this well. People can ask questions, they can come and contribute. And Michelle also worked on a over 60-page educational plan for Shaker Lane, which was also a very extensive project. You guys all worked on that. Thank you again for that. It really gave us a good summary of what the vision is for Shaker Lane, which allows us to really understand what building we need to meet that vision. So thank you guys too for working on that, because that had to be submitted as well to the MSBA. I think other than that, that's kind of all I
think that's it.
have. That's it. Okay.
Thank you. The Shaker Lane Building Committee meetings are public meetings, correct? For posted agendas,
They are close to each other.
and they're public meetings. Yeah.
They're
So I
virtual,
just-
they're virtual.
Virtual meetings, I mean, anybody could drop in via Zoom, so
Yes.
I wanted to make the point that a lot of meetings have been taking place, there's been a lot of opportunity for public input. And as you said, as we get closer, our efforts will increase as it is for like outreach to the public, because the last thing we want is to be at town meeting next year and people are like, I haven't heard about this, what is this? So I wanted to reiterate to the community that meetings have been taking place. There is opportunity to pop into a Zoom meeting at any point in time, get some information, voice your concerns, give your feedback, and that'll intensify as the process goes on.
And we'll also be meeting as well we already had meetings with select board, finance committee, school committee, in August. That's something we're also going to be doing more now that, we're kind of in a regular schedule. We've got a lot of the bulk of the work done. So now we want to make sure that everybody is involved in the decision-making process. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your work, Stacy. I mean, I
Guys
can,
did it.
yeah,
Thank you.
I know, I just went to like one visioning this summer and felt like, wow, that was so much. And I know that you've done so much more. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, the OPM and the architects and you guys have done a really good job of packing in a lot into these meetings and really getting as much out as we could for input as to what we needed to get this
this PPP done. So
It's an immense amount of work.
many steps ahead, but
Yes. Yeah, we're on the journey.
Ongoing.
Thank you for the update, Stacy. Next up is the superintendent's report. Kelly Clinch will report on the first day back to school along with personnel update.
So we had a great start to the school year. It went like clockwork. Our buses were pretty well on schedule. I'd like to also say I'm pleased that we have buses and bus drivers. There are a lot of districts out there that are still scrambling because of shortage of drivers. And it's nice to have a group of drivers where most of them were with us last year. So they know the community, they know the routes, which creates some efficiencies as well. Our schools were so inviting the first day, and every school had their own unique way of welcoming students. So Schcmte School had colorful chalk messages on the sidewalk when students were walking in. Or, we spend the first few days, actually over a week, getting to know our students, making sure that they feel welcome and valued, and they're part of the team, part of the learning community. And when I toured the schools the first day, I was quite pleased with how quickly our students settled down and to learning. My first stop was at our kindergarten classrooms, and it was probably around 9:40 a.m. in the morning, and they were all sitting in a circle in their respective classrooms, and they were quiet and learning. And by the time I hit the last classroom, they had already broken up into some group learning, and it was just so nice to see how quickly they can go from a 2-month vacation and get back into school routines. And a credit to our families and our staff, obviously, for having that transference after a period of time off to get back into the learning process. So Russell Street School, they had similar activities, and middle school. I mean, they all are age appropriate activities, and I toured every school, and I was impressed with what I saw in all of them. As a superintendent, when you've been in this business for a while, and I used to evaluate schools a number of years ago, you can walk into a school and you can feel it. You get a sense of what's happening there. And it was a good feel in all of the schools. So I feel that this was probably one of our smoothest starts that we've had since COVID. So looking forward to a great year. Personnel update, it's in your package. We had 11 new teachers or educators, more correctly, and 2 administrative changes. All the rest are people that were moving on other positions. There were some transfers from one position to another as well. We always look for internal talent when we're hiring, and we were able to exercise that in a couple of positions. And this is typical in terms of the list that you see in your package. It's a little larger than it was, larger than it is. It's larger now than it was pre-COVID. And reasons for that is there are a lot more openings. Staff can move closer to where they live. And if they're younger staff members, it makes a huge difference in terms of the quality of life they have. They can have a 10-minute drive home. And are able to pick up their children within that time period. So we're happy with the staff that we've hired. We've had great pools, and it's important to say that because when you have more demand for positions, you have to get off the starting gate as fast as you can. And we were really good about getting our ads out and getting our interview process underway. So again, kudos to our administration and our hiring teams, screening teams, etc. So we're well set for the school year. We have a few vacant positions, a couple of ed assistants now called ESPs at Russell Street School. We have one at the middle school, and Dr. Harrington, I think you have one at the high school still. Did you fill that one?
Yeah, we still need.
You still have
or ESP.
one that's ESP. So, we're in good shape. If you read about education within the state, you'll realize that there are a number of vacant positions in a number of school districts. So. Any questions about the personnel?
Do you have a sense of if this is the norm in the schools in our area? Kind of like-
It is a norm, in the schools in our area. I find that when teachers, if teachers are in an area for 4 or 5 years, there's a stronger tendency for them to stay. But there's a time in one's career where you make a decision. Are you going to be an educator? Are you going to move up to be a department head or an administrator? And those are just professional transitions. And we pride ourselves with when our staff actually do those things, because we work very hard to make sure that we support them and empower them to aspire for any position that they would like. And sometimes they go to other districts and make us really proud. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Is that everybody? Good. All right, next up, moving right along. So we've got the tennis courts Whitcomb project, assistant director. I see a couple people in the audience here, but assistant director of Park and Rec, Tim Mikowski, will present on the tennis courts Whitcomb project. Alicia's here as well.
It's all Tim though.
It's all Tim.
Tim and Mike.
Mike's here as well. Tag team effort,
Absolutely. Thank you for having us tonight.
of course. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Mike. So this is something that we've been discussing for quite a while, as far as getting the tennis courts redone. Ever since we've moved on with the center on Shattuck Street, this has been something that's been a topic. Just to give everybody a quick, brief overview, the tennis court project became necessary after the demolition of the town hall tennis courts, which took away 2 tennis courts and 4 pickleball courts, which existed where the new site is for the center. The original location was chosen to be looked at was the Cooper Farm property. A design was contracted, and that design came out right around $1.1 million and was put on hold before it was sent to the town meeting floor in 2022. Second location, multiple locations were looked at, and the decision was made to renovate the courts at the Littleton High School. The decision was that we're going to renovate these courts into a 4-pack of courts to meet the needs of both the high school sports, as well as replacing the 2 courts that we had lost at the site. This was taken to fall town meeting, and $734,000 was appropriated, of which some of that was CPC and some of that was going to be borrowed. We, over the course of time, met with a couple companies who were actually construction and design. And in June of 2024, myself, Alicia, Steve, Mark, and Mike met out on the tennis courts and started discussing. If you can, next slide, please. So one of the things that became very quickly apparent was that places had kind of shorted the courts a little bit, and there really wasn't room, and there was going to be pretty significant site work that needed to be done. We would need to cut into the hill. There was going to have to be some retention walls, and most importantly, when we had started talking about this project, was it was going to have a huge impact on where the buses that you can see in the picture are parked, which was something that was kind of really affected what we're doing. The other thing about this site is, as far as the parking lot goes, erosion controls, we're really going to have to look at really moving a lot of the islands and doing a lot of site work that was involved here. Activitas had quickly put together these drawings, and we, Mike and I looked at them and said, okay, well, what are our other options? Next slide, please. So we sat down and discussed options, and we came up with a plan. Couple things is for the general knowledge group, and we'll go over it on the next slide. We've had 5 kind of projects that have dealt with both high school sports, middle school sports, and where we are the liaison for the youth sports. We've been chasing a lot of field space for a really long time. So Mike and I finally got the ability to sit down, and we said, how can we put all of this together? How can we save money for the town? How can we advance the amount of open space and playing fields without actually having any extra space? So what we've been looking at as part of the needs that we need to do were obviously the replacement of the courts, tennis and pickleball. And like I said, that came in at that 733, which we took to the town meeting floor. The other piece was that eventually, it wasn't part of this plan, that we were gonna need to build dedicated pickleball courts behind the Indian Hill property eventually. I'm sorry, that shouldn't say 750, that should say 450 was the kind of projected cost on that. So that was $450,000 there. And then the last thing is addressing the needs of youth soccer. And if anybody has a kid who plays soccer, we kind of have all the soccer kids stashed all over town. And most recently with the loss of the St. Anne's we picked up a agreement with the Bible Church over on Tadawon Road to pick up some extra space. The idea for putting another soccer field in town has been on the capital plan since 2016. And that was at an estimated cost of $1.1 million in 2016 by the Gale field study that we had received for the town. Next slide, please. Oh, back one, please. So the other piece to it is, in looking at the whole, we were chasing the tennis courts, we were chasing the pickleball courts, we were looking at getting a varsity field up to the caliber of Jet Field, just as in an interest of equity. The varsity baseball field has not been utilized since the high school sewer project had started, so we were playing down at Wickham. And the general consensus was there was a lot of really good that came out of that because people were actually coming to the baseball games after the other sports had wrapped up. In our initial study, which you'll see on the next page as well, that estimated cost to renovate Wickham was about $650,000. Once again, back in that 2016 study. So all told, if we put all of these projects in, it comes out to about $3.24 million, which is what we were looking at overall if we were to do these individual projects and figure it out. Additional costs could be incurred in the future if Cooper or Ken Whitefields are impacted by the Shaker Lane project, which we've also thought about that as well. There was one of the submittals that did leave us eventually net negative on one baseball field, depending on what the selection is, which we, like I said, have come up with a resolution for that as well. After Mike and I had put together our heads, we had a meeting with the TA's office, school representatives, Dr. Clenchy, Steve Mark, Principal Everhart, and then we had the TA's office, Mike was present, and a couple representatives from these sports organizations, the president of soccer and the president of baseball, softball. Just so you can see, this is the initial just kind of snapshot of the Gale report. So you can see that it was a little over $1.1 million for the creation of a soccer field at the Cooper Farm area. And if you look at Wickham Field, the original idea was to possibly put a soccer and a baseball field there. So that second line item, you can see the $650,000 for the Wickham Field. That's where we get those numbers from. Next slide, please.
Can I also clarify that those numbers were projected in 2017, so they're quite old.
So in sitting down with Mike, we kind of came up with an idea and said, how can we solve all of these things at the least cost and, really make a solid impact that would buy us some time for the next couple to 5 years. And, really what we highlighted was that we convert the existing high school tennis courts into the multi-courts that we lost at the town hall. So if you haven't been down there, there's a picture on the next slide. The high school courts, thanks to Steve Mark moving that forward, they have been crack filled, they have been resurfaced, they have been relined. The only thing that has not been completed is the pickleball lines being put onto them.
Yeah, I think they were out there yesterday or today doing that.
So essentially what we've done, bullet point number 1 has been solved. So at this point, the town hall tennis courts as they were kind of exist down at the high school. The next piece was still chasing that new tennis court project. And our idea was, well, what if we put that down at the Littleton Middle School, on the middle school field right as you pull into the parking lot. So as we walk through this, we'll kind of discuss that as well. In that project, in doing it combined, renovate and enhance Wickham baseball field to bring it to the level of Jet softball field for equity. And then move all of the town soccer to the Littleton high school fields, which we have started piloting that this fall, and it seems to be working out very, very well. Essentially what we would then do is mothball the high school varsity baseball field, which has been unused since the start of the sewer project, and the softball field, which has been unused since 2020. That's the field all the way out in the back. We always had issues with getting people to bathrooms, elderly, handicapped, just access to that field in general. It's also extremely wet all of the time. Both of those fields would then become a placeholder that we could very quickly and easily for, the cost between $30,000 and $60,000 per field, bring back online if we were to lose Cooper and Ken White for the Shaker Lane project. Next slide, please. Did you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered it. You're good.
All right. So taking Activitas's kind of overlay that we had for the high school project with the 4-pack lining up. We laid in our tennis courts here. This is the middle school field. When you drive in the middle school driveway, this would be to the right of the driveway. This is how the tennis courts would effectively look on that site. We still do have room for one 8v8 youth soccer field, which could be really used for anything. As far as sports fields, practice, things like that. It's just a smaller field. And that would be located there. When we spoke to Principal Everhart, he did, express some concerns about they do use that whole grass field for recess. And, we really were kind of looking at it. So there will still be partially grass. The other piece is, having the hard courts, the nets do come down in the winter and things like that. Depending on how they're kept cleared and things like that, that can be a discussion that also, creates an opportunity for getting out at different times of the year, different opportunities that don't exist now with just the grass fields. Next slide, please. So like I said, Littleton tennis courts at the high school, they've been crack filled, resealed, repainted, and relined. And that was a picture I actually took on Monday morning. So I guess there's pickleball lines on there as of yesterday. That effectively is what we were chasing down for the town hall courts. Next slide, please. Wickham Field project, and one of the reasons that we're coming to you, albeit a little bit late about this, is we were waiting for what the selection was for Shaker Lane based on the fact that this was a site that was being considered. And we were asked by the town administration just to kind of hold off on the plan, just to kind of see where that shook out. Ideally, what we would do, next slide, please, is we would convert Wickham into a field that has fencing. It actually has a home run fence. It has dugouts, on deck circles, exactly the experience that you would have at Jet. And then the other piece that's involved in kind of doing this is we would then be able to take that varsity field offline up at the high school that's not currently being used. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and a key component of everything that Tim's been covering is, I've been with it for 24 years, been in the athletic director for 20. Every spring, there's a meeting with youth soccer, youth lacrosse, youth baseball, and softball. And that meeting can be challenging, let's use that word. So we were trying to solve this dilemma of how can we satisfy all those needs, and the spring being the one you see the most crunch for fields. And what we're doing at the high school currently this fall, we have basically all soccer in the town being played at the high school and over at Corporate Field. We can't do that though if we have to use the high school baseball field in the spring. We're back to only having one field space for soccer all the way over to the right that we can use, and then we're back to how do we accommodate all these different sports that want to be there. And the other thing we've observed over all these years is a trend with baseball and softball that baseball and softball participation has trended downward. A lot of sports will ebb and flow. I've never seen soccer ebb in this town, ever. Like at the youth or the high school level. We've consistently fielded 6 soccer teams within the schools, middle school, JV, and varsity. The youth soccer participation is 400 to 500 or something like that.
So they've had a couple seasons that they've gotten into the 600 range.
Yeah.
So
Recently.
it's massive, and it's fall and spring massive. So soccer is something that you have to figure out in this town. Because we've never seen a trend where it decreases. So we're trying to do that, and also Tim has also mentioned that the Jet softball field that was part of the alumni build. It is amazing. I mean, it's like a field of dreams for the sport of softball. We have a fence, we have a warning track, we have bathrooms right behind the field. It's a irrigated field. It's tremendous. We don't have the equivalent in baseball. And then when we started playing at Wickham, as a result of the SOAR project, what we thought was really a negative actually turned into, we kind of like this location better, but we don't really like the field better than what we have at the high school. I don't want to have a logistical situation where we have, well, the softball kids like playing at Jet. The high school softball field is unplayable. It would take a lot of money to bring it back online. Baseball field wouldn't take as much. But we now have high school softball being played at one facility, high school baseball played at another. It's a logistical problem with transportation. It's a logistical problem with visiting parents. It's just tricky. We'd like to have everything over where we've been doing things for 2 springs. It's really worked out quite well. And we have seen an increase in fan participation. But the field really isn't where it needs to be for high school play. The bench area is not really all that safe. It doesn't have enough fencing. And then one other thing I would bring that if we're going to play in the spring that kind of needs to be addressed prior to the spring, and I hope I'm not talking on a turn. We do need some kind of a netting system that would protect cars that are passing on that road, because that's not ideal right now. So we would need something there.
So if you can just, so as far as the Wickham project goes, just so everybody knows, in our preliminary conversation, with, Jonathan Chadwick, from Activitas, we did put the tennis courts and the Wickham project together to meet kind of what we're looking at. And in the next slide, I'll show you kind of the why, and, you know, the Wickham project is important right here. But in that initial proposal, you know, in that 734 that we had been given, through CPC funding, which we do need to rewrite the article in order to be able to utilize that for design and construction costs, which I've been working with, Ryan Farrar, our assistant town administrator, to do. It's about $112,000 to get the tennis courts and Wickham design, construction out to bid, all of those documents that we need to do that, which leaves us with about $621,000 to actually complete the project. So the next conversations will be with the FinCom and with the select board to see, you know, how do we come up with the rest of what we need. Preliminary assessments have come out that the Wickham project will probably cost somewhere around an additional $300,000 to meet the fencing, the dugouts, everything that we're kind of looking to put into that in order to bring it up to where we want to be. If we were to break these projects apart and do them separately, it would cost us somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000 to $80,000 to do the design and the bidding and everything else separately. So that's something that we look at as well when we were looking into this. The reasoning why, if you can go to the next slide, is ultimately this is what exists right now at the high school, minus the 2 little fields on the side. So for the first time ever, we were able to really truly meet the needs of our youth sports from a soccer standpoint. We have 4 full-size soccer fields. 3 of these are painted with additional fields being the 9v9 and the 8v8 fields. So we now have ample opportunity. The other piece that this does is this allows all of the youth are now traveling to the high school at a time that it's not really utilized. So we're taking away a lot of the conflict, especially traffic and other things. Before, we used to have a big problem where youth would come out, the baseball game was still going on, or the field hockey game, things like that. So now that this exists, it takes away some of that conflict. The other piece from a high school standpoint, I'll let Mike talk about this a little further, is it gives the ability for both the varsity girls and boys and JV to have a dedicated field should they need it. Just to kind of talk about it in the future, if we were to say, okay, Wickham is the field and it's not coming back, the high school softball fields no longer needed, we could put 2 8v8 fields to meet the needs of that growing. Next slide. Other options for us is if we mothball these fields for right now, like I said, we could spend like $30,000 to $60,000 per field to skim the field or turn it into a ball field. But what you see here is this would essentially be if the Shaker Lane project was going on, we could move Ken White and Cooper to these 2 locations. And because of the distances of those fences, you wouldn't have the interface with the soccer. We could still have full soccer fields because varsity baseball has such a longer fence. So this would be something that we could look forward to in the future. If we did not need that space, then obviously we would return to opportunity number 1 and just use it for green space, soccer, lacrosse, all of those. Okay.
You covered it well.
Okay. I believe that was the last slide. Yep. So, essentially just what we're looking for is, to see if anybody has any questions. Ideally, we would ask for a vote, for the school committee to either support, the, kind of the plan overall, so that we can move forward and we can rewrite the article. This is all stuff that's taking place on school property. So that's why we would need, the vote from the school committee to be in support of doing both of these projects. The biggest thing is going to be that we're going to move the tennis court project from the high school down to the middle school site. That's the big piece in rewriting the language, because the language is specific to the high school at this point. So we would rewrite the language in a way that was either directed towards the middle school or a little more open, in the idea of on-school property.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Questions, comments?
I do have a few questions, just because
Sure.
I know more about Whitman Field than I ever thought that I would. That's really good on it. It's a very tight space. So tennis courts aside, I think that seems like a great plan, but for the Whitman Field, you guys want to keep that baseball field there, just develop it, establish it, fence it in a little bit more, is that right? That's
Yeah,
the
so
potential need if
baseball
they get to, if Shaker Lane, if we can't get baseball fields at Shaker Lane.
Wickham would become our dedicated 90-foot full-size baseball.
Full-size baseball.
So it would have fencing down both of the foul lines. It would have an outfield fence, foul poles. It would have dugouts with roofs, just like it exists as it does up at the varsity field.
Yep.
For anybody who's interested in kind of looking at something that is apples to apples, is Air put in, pretty much did the exact same renovation we're looking to do to their varsity field. Black fence, dugouts, tin roof. If anybody wanted to see that, that's kind of exactly what we're looking to do with them.
Okay. Have you seen the proposals for the Shaker Lane, how we have all of the fields in the front of the Shaker Lane? So you've seen that there's plenty of space there if we wanted to do baseball fields there, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
The only reason I ask is because, just to note for you guys, just for thoughtful planning for that space in Wickham Field, is that we're adding, I think it was like 40,000 square feet to Shaker Lane building to meet the students' needs. Russell Street's an older building. We know we're probably eventually at some point going to have to add to that. And you know how tight of a space that is between 495, the brand new track, the alumni fields. There's not a lot of space in that area for us to add to Russell Street if we needed to.
Mhm.
So just something to just keep in mind for that area, keeping it a green space is wonderful. Tucking the baseball field back as far as you can so it doesn't get disrupted if at some point we need to carve out some more space for Russell Street. I just wanted to just note
If you can
that.
just go back to the Wickham slide real quick. So the one thing that we have discussed is, you can see that little green square up at the top closest to the Russell Street parking. The lot, go down the other way, Steve. Straight down towards the corner of the parking lot. Right there.
Yep.
So that's really, I mean, that's as close as we could ever possibly hope to get to relocating home plate. At that point, to Mike's statement about fencing, we would really need to do something. And that would probably require a significant overhang on the backstop, which, you know, for baseball purists is not ideal. However, if we were to move into that spot, it'd be about an additional $60,000 to $70,000 to relocate the actual field itself. But, you know, that is something that we could look into in the project if we wanted to do that.
So how about the field behind Shaker Lane, if that remained untouched, would that be a better option for you, or no?
Varsity baseball field won't fit there.
It won't fit?
Yeah. So right now, we're looking, just so you have a perspective, right and left field in this particular instance is 305, which is the shortest recommended high school fence. 325 is kind of the longer side that people are playing. As you can see, this is 325 in center field. Some baseball fields on the high school level can go up to 375. But that's really kind of the dimensions that we're chasing, which definitely we could probably maybe fit that at Cooper and Ken White. I don't have those measurements, but it definitely wouldn't fit on the Shaker baseball field. I don't know that baseball would necessarily like to lose that field because that is our nicest of the Little League fields.
Yeah, it makes sense to have it over by the middle school too. We've got alumni field there. You've already got the lights set up. It's like it
Well,
seems
Mike's
like
already
it's-
busing all of the athletes down there anyway, so
Right,
there's a cost that
Yeah.
would be involved with moving them anywhere else.
yeah. yeah, so I'll just be thoughtful with that, just be thoughtful with that design and, you know, I would hate for us to build something and then in a few years, we have to like figure out how to or move it somewhere else because we need more space for the school.
Well, a couple facts that Littleton's always gonna have to live with unless you develop a massive piece of property. The schools in the in the youth fields they're like one and the same in Littleton, and that's not true in a lot of towns. A lot of towns, you take like Groton, they have massive, youth fields in addition to their campuses. We will always have to work together, and I think we've been doing a good job lately, so we've been getting along great, we've been making it work. We think we have a better master plan for what we have to work with for both entities. And, it's not perfect, it's never gonna be perfect, there's always gonna be that crossover period when we're ending, they're arriving. I will tell you, since moving youth soccer in the fall up to the high school where we're playing all the high school soccer, we have siphoned off a lot of car and traffic flow at the Russell Street complex in between school and youth, that 5 or 6 o'clock time. There's essentially nobody arriving here at that point because we've taken the youth soccer and moved it all to high school. The other thing you're always gonna be stuck with in Littleton is, and we can't go back and, undo this back in 2001 or whatever, or in the formative stage for the high school. We built a high school. For those who don't know, the high school used to sit where the middle school currently sits. So if you're wondering why the football, the stadium and the track, our two feature outdoor facilities aren't the high school campus, it's because they used to be. And at that time, people decided to build a high school up on the piece of land they had, but all we put out there was back fields. So we just have open green space behind the high school, which is fine. But people often come to high school and they're like, do you guys not have a football team or do you not have track? Like, we do. It's all over at the middle school, Russell Street complex, which I'll be the first to tell you is not ideal. And those who see my emails and whatnot and communications know that we spend a lot of time training our kids where they can't park so that they don't disrupt the dismissal process at Russell Street School, which there's a crossover there when we're arriving and they're trying to dismiss, and we do the best we can with all these things. And we're sensitive to the fact that, our turf field, our track, they are right beside our intermediate building and our after school program. It's never going to change because, high school's up the road and we're always going to have to bus. D-Bus we're lucky to have the best bus company in this region. We really are. We're doing better than a lot of school districts, a lot of colleagues I have. And Renee's been phenomenal. And we work a shuttle bus every day and it's never going to go away because we have to get kids over to the turf daily. We have to get kids over to the track daily. We have to get kids over to Fay Park in the fall for cross country. We're always going to be one of those schools that can't really just be neat and tidy and just have every facility for the high school up there. And we're always going to have to work collaboratively with youth. Hence, we really this whole thing that we put together was kind of one of those things like, wow, if this will really, and now we're living it. I think we've solved the soccer field crunch. I think we have, right?
Yeah, I think we have.
But we need it in the spring too. If we haven't done anything, if we get into spring, if we play baseball and softball at the high school, we're kind of right back where we were. So luckily though, we found the softball players never want to go back to high school. They would never want to go back to the high school over Jet Field. And we found that the baseball kids actually like the baseball field that they're playing on. They would just like to see it, maybe some enhancements that what we've been talking about. So a lot of these things kind of came together. And the need for tennis courts. Right now, the town of Littleton, we have 10,000 residents. Is that about what we have? Has 2 tennis courts in the entire town. So that is not sufficient. So that's hence the need for 4 more courts somewhere.
Justin, Elaine has her hand up. She's online.
Elaine?
Yes, hi. I'm thinking about the tennis courts at the field behind the high school, and I think you were saying that there's a problem with it being wet often. Would those plans to rebuild soccer fields back there mitigate those conditions?
So where we have the 4th soccer field coming up to, it's still outside of that like really wet area right behind the shortstop / right field area of the varsity softball field. The only field, if we ever got rid of that field and put a soccer field, the little soccer field there, we might have some issues. If we ever redesigned and put another youth softball field up there, those issues, we'd have to look at whatever we have to do to dry that area up with material that was being put in.
Okay, thank you.
So Tim, you're asking us to support or vote on essentially, just kind of in summary, this 4 tennis court project at the middle school. And, excuse me, some sort of spend on the varsity, what is to become the permanent varsity baseball field.
Yes, so some
Right.
sort of renovation, whether that's part of this initial tennis court project or whether we, look at doing it as a separate project, that is the ask.
But you're looking to pair them together.
Correct. That it's the biggest cost savings if we do it from
Sure.
a design and construction standpoint.
I'm just purely out of curiosity, because I remember this from your presentation last time. The orientation of the 4 courts, there was something to do with sunset and playing in the sun. Are they, I'm just
South.
curious, did you
Yeah,
guys look at that?
so these would be properly oriented.
Okay. So then could you just review what the money spend is for us and where we think the town is going to raise the money to do the 4 courts and?
So essentially right now, based off of where we are and we're assuming, this is all assumptions until we can get the $112,000 and really get the construction cost. We're assuming that we're probably gonna need somewhere in the neighborhood of an additional $300,000, which would probably be a borrow or a CPC fund ask, depending on how the warrant article is written. If you go back and actually look at the warrant, from town meeting November 1st, 2023, in that particular warrant, it was to appropriate $734,000 for design and construction at the Littleton High School. $400,000 of that would be appropriated from the CPC, and the balance of 334 would be borrowed by the treasurer with approval by the select board.
Okay,
So in this particular case,
it's you estimate that it's an additional
It would probably be-
300,000.
that's what we're based off of the air project and the idea that we want to get fencing and dugouts at minimum. That's kind of what we're looking at.
And that's the four new courts at the middle school and the baseball field improvement.
Yes,
An additional 300 on top of what the town already voted in favor of,
correct.
for all of the pros that you just went through with this.
Correct. So in the grand scheme of things, when Mike and I worked out this whole, we mentioned that everything all by itself in the 2016 report, plus the tennis courts, plus the pickleball courts, was right around $3.23 million. Even if we were to go to 1.5 on this, we're seeing a significant savings over, that $3.3 million project that it would take to meet what we were able to solve by just moving the soccer field and, doing what we were able to sit down and kind of figure out.
Are there any organized sports, be it middle school or youth sports that use where the 4 courts are proposed to go at the middle school?
We'll cross that in the past. Sorry.
Yes, so I mean,
You'll find a new home for them, is the answer?
yeah, the high school.
We've got plenty of grass now.
Okay.
So anybody who plays on that kind of, the exception to that question, which we've talked about, and I don't know how deep you want to go into it, is we do have middle school field hockey out there right now.
Okay,
Because traditionally they were out in the Wickham field. We have, the track field is not being used right now. We're actually resting it, which has always been one of our goals, and that would become the home for, middle school soccer.
okay.
So where would middle school field hockey go? In your mind?
Well, that would either have to go across the outfield of the Wickham field. And one of the objectives is that right now, like, we're always playing sports all over the outfields of the baseball fields. This field would have essentially no sports played across it, but with the only exception probably being middle school field hockey. That one might need a home. Yeah, it's not gonna be perfect, in order to gain something, because we're adding 4 tennis courts that the town really has never currently had, because we had 2 and 2. So we just lost a site with 2 tennis courts, we're putting a building. So 4 tennis courts need to go somewhere. Why we arrived there is because when we started with the engineer, we started really looking at what the impacts would be upon the high school. It seemed like this is becoming prohibitive. So that's why we arrived at that location. But yeah, you are giving up a small field.
Small field,
But gaining so much grass at the high school.
Yeah, so the middle school field hockey team will get displaced to the outfield of Whitcomb or potentially bust to the.
They were
Or
originally,
high school
they
soccer
were, the
fields.
middle school field hockey was originally playing on Wickham's outfield.
Yes, they used to play there and the middle school soccer used to play inside the track, but then we had the opportunity to take soccer off of the track, which we're resting that field this year. And there's also issues when you put a field inside the track with people going across your track.
Sure.
And playing on your track.
Yeah.
And riding bikes on your track. You know, things like that. So we're trying to also remove, because we used to use the track field heavily, middle school plus 3 7v7s across it. So we were getting off it. Youth was coming on it. Right now, we have actually nothing programmed in there, letting that field rest.
Okay.
So what could happen is middle school field hockey could go in there. This massive soccer complex at the high school honestly could daily handle all of the soccer teams, but again, now you're getting a situation with middle school kids need to get to the high school. But if it results in a better soccer experience for them, because we essentially have a soccer, we're partly there, but we're essentially gonna have a soccer complex behind the high school. And, you know, again, watching the trends for 24 years in this town, I've never seen any drop in soccer interest or participation. I don't foresee it ever happening, so
To the point of the inside the track, just one final point. So any sport that we put inside the track, with the exception of soccer, the field has to be extremely heavily modified. Because the infield was not left big enough when they actually made that track. And then the other piece to that is, that, you know, we no longer have soccer going out there. So spring season, track is the only thing out there. In the fall season, middle school soccer team is a dedicated field, which we've never had before.
Right. 2 quick questions. Do you plan on doing pickleball on the proposed 4 new courts as well, or are those purely tennis?
Purely tennis.
Okay.
Right now, it's
Obviously, you could add pickleball if the trend continues where pickleball. And then my last question was, do you plan on moving the JV varsity program to the 4 new courts eventually so that it's one bus ride,
oh, the tennis
yeah,
would join would just hop on the shuttle bus that already exists.
in the away mat, like we would host our matches at the 4 new courts at the middle school
We would, they
versus splitting JV and varsity.
but what we would get on practice days, and I foresee like having an A and a B week where, okay, week A, girls program gets the 4-court location.
Mhm.
Week A, the boys get the 2-court at the high school.
Okay.
Next week, you would give the boys the 4 courts for their practice and the girls. So you'd be, right now, we have 2 courts at the high school. And we use one of the strangest land deals I've ever seen. We use 2 courts behind the new houses at Weber.
Yeah.
And the fence, it is literally maybe 2 feet away from some people's patios. Like, and when we hold matches, and sometimes maybe that 5th match is being played, it's gonna come down to that, and the rest of the matches are completed, so all the kids are watching it. They're not doing nothing wrong, they're right on the outside of the fence. They're cheering and everything. We are literally on the edge of their backyard. It is not a good situation. In those courts, you get any rain, I have to go out there with brooms, I have to clear all the puddles, I have to blow them. I mean, those courts are not a good situation for us. We really need to be in our last spring, this one coming up with those courts. That's not a great situation for us, or that it's not fair to those residents, if I'm being honest. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Janine?
I got a little lost. So we're talking now about the 4 new tennis courts and the baseball field down where the Russell Street Middle School are. That's one project. Are the soccer fields behind the high school a separate project?
So we don't need to do anything. We just
Sorry, done.
had to
We're
paint
all
it.
set. Okay,
So what we're trying not to do is, if we can renovate Wickham, and
Yeah.
we don't have to send the spring baseball, because if we had the varsity field up there, then we lose 2 11v11 fields in the spring.
Okay.
Because baseball's up there, there's no fence, the ball can kind of roll forever, it's 3.
You would lose 3. In the event there was the four field scenario, you would lose you'd lose all three of them
Now,
on the right.
I trust you guys.
Now by
capability. It's like,
dedicating
no-
Whitcomb,
Yeah.
there's no soccer field, there's no interface. We send everybody up there. You know, traffic stays the same because now you have track meets. You don't have youth sports coming there. They're all going to the high school, which is a site that's not being used because there's no high school sports being played up there, with the exception of 2 tennis courts for practice.
No, I really trust you guys, and I'm so glad you're the ones doing this.
Yeah,
I'm thinking like money spent. So no more money for the soccer fields. We're talking about the money for the tennis and the baseball field. I'm good with that. I just wanted to clarify in my own mind. I'm sorry.
yeah, and to be perfectly clear, we're already doing it. DPW is awesome. They have that robot painter. They just programmed it to do more fields. What Tim put up there with the 4 fields across,
Yeah,
we have 3 fields across this fall.
okay.
The 4th field, and that has nothing to do with anything that we've talked about. The 4th field is that soft field area, and it has like a sinkhole because there's been issues over there since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
But you could easily make a 4th field there with just bringing some loam and seeding it. We just haven't got that far yet.
Okay.
But, you know, it is interesting because some people might be thinking, why do we have such a high soccer need in fall and spring? It's the only sport that's like that has that high need fall and spring.
So 2 questions. If we have 4 soccer fields at the high school, is there a rotation to rest on all those fields at some point in time?
You absolutely would have that option. If they did the 4, right now we're at 3. We're not really resting any of them. We're using them, but if you had 4, you could absolutely do that.
Okay.
But the nature of soccer, it's not really a sport that's hard on fields, honestly,
Not
at
like
all.
lacrosse.
Except where the goalie stands, that's it.
Right. Okay, my
So
second
right
question,
now we are so we would not have been able, if we didn't have the 3rd field.
Yeah.
Essentially, we could bring in a 4th field in the future.
Yep.
We didn't have the 3rd field currently, we couldn't rest the track field, which desperately needed it.
okay,
You can also shift them to if needed it in the
Yep.
future.
yeah. So my second question is the 112,000 for the design portion. Is that rolled into the $300,000 request additional funds that's already accounted for, correct?
So it's accounted for. So
Okay.
we did have a conversation this week, just so everybody is, one of the asks is can that come out of the rec revolving fund? And we were told by the state and the attorneys that cannot be appropriated from that fund. It's not what it's allowed to be used for. So right now, we have 734 appropriated. That would be, the 112 would come out of that, which would leave 621. So once we got our final answer from Activitas, we would know what the exact number that we're actually chasing. It's conjecture right now that the middle school site is going to cost us less because there's less site work to do. But it would be assumed that there would be some sort of cost savings because that is flat, and to our knowledge, there's no utilities underneath of it.
So Tim, are you still using the 2017 numbers or have you adjusted them for?
So we have adjusted the numbers based off of current construction costs that were given to us based off of the places for the 4-pack that we were going to put at the high school.
And that was 2020 or 2023.
Yeah, 2000.
So recent, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're assuming between $200,000 and $300,000 cost based off of what it costs renovation wise for the air baseball field. That's where we kind of ballpark that number from for the fencing and the dugouts.
As I said at our meeting prior to the end of the last school year, I mean, this is an impressive plan for years and years. We've been having these conversations and have not been able to come up with a viable plan like you have together. So thank you for working together. It's
Been great.
Great partnership.
That's a great plan.
I'm just wondering, until we have a firm price on what this would cost, maybe a motion to the effect that we approve the plan moving forward in principle at this point in time until we have more information. So it's, before a school committee should jump into the water on something like this, we really truly do need to know the cost and what implications, if any, the cost is going to have to other town departments, including our department. So.
Yep, and ideally what we would do is rewrite the article, go to town meeting with the idea that we were going to be able to have it somewhere on the town of Littleton school property rather than strictly at the high school, which is how it's written, which is what is being prevented right now for us moving
So
forward.
I think that's the key component is what you're really asking for is the school committee's approval to move forward with the project because it's on school property.
Correct.
And not be
granted,
so restrictive.
we should be in favor of the money spent as well, like,
Right.
we should do this with our thinking hats on. But the select board and the finance committee are really gonna be the ones to make the financial recommendations spent.
Right now, we just need to rewrite the
That
article.
makes
with
sense?
School
Yeah,
property
it
in
does.
mind rather than.
I mean, I know we have a big spend coming up, but
Yes.
we're all cognizant of tax dollars and everything, but,
I
So
mean,
the
really, it's,
Objective is to get it into town meeting this October. And hopefully, so by next spring, those new fields will be in, like, what's your,
So ideally, what we would do is have all the construction, at some point, we would come back to you with all those exact prices after we, do the 112 spend to get everything we need. Put it out to bid, have all of those numbers, and then basically, last day of school, ideally, if everything is ready to go, we can shut down the middle school parking lot. Or, wherever the site work is going to, be most impactful. That way, the project can be completed prior to opening back up school.
So it'd be for next summer, we're talking about this.
but it has to be at this town meeting in order for that time. I just want to make sure, we understand the timeline.
That is
Okay,
correct, yes.
so Tim, I just want to make sure I understand some things we haven't talked about yet. So you're asking the school committee to make a motion in order to construct the tennis courts and Whitman Field. I'm assuming that the land would still remain in the school district's name. Is that correct?
Yep, yeah, there's no changes. This is,
Okay.
it'd be identical to what we were planning on doing at the high school. It's just,
Perfect.
we're asking basically for more latitude on where the site actually is. So that this will be the third time that we're going to town meeting because the article was so specifically written. The first time it was for Cooper property, the $1.1 million price tag, was not really what anyone's appetite was looking at. So that's why it was scratched. In 2023, we came up with this plan. Like I said, the architects at the time didn't really give us a site that actually worked. And when we met with the new architects, we kind of formulated this plan, but in order to do so, we need a little bit of latitude we need to change the language from the high school. Somewhere on school property, or, we don't necessarily want to say the middle school field, so we don't end up in the same boat.
Right.
But that's what we're looking for from you guys this evening.
I think we've heard a lot, and it's of interest to us, that's a good thing.
Okay.
We spend a lot of time
Thank
on
you
it,
very much.
you've spent a lot of
Thank
time
you.
on it.
For sure.
If there are no other questions or comments, we could move forward with a motion so that they are comfortable moving forward with the project.
Yep.
Someone like to make a motion?
So, want me to do this?
Go for it.
So motion to approve having the tennis courts be moved in front of the middle school, correct?
Yep.
And also, are we doing this, the baseball part of it
The
too?
renovation of it.
And the renovation of the baseball fields currently on Whitman Fields. Does that work?
Yeah, it works.
I second.
Motion made and seconded, this is a roll call vote. Elaine?
Aye.
Perfect. Stacy?
Aye.
Dino?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Justin votes aye as well.
Great.
I appreciate all of your time. I did bring a copy just since I hadn't had an opportunity to submit it. It's just a copy of the town meeting report of the language we're changing and the activitas. So I'll give that to Steve has a copy, but I'm sure he can disseminate it to everybody. Thank you all very
Thanks,
much.
Tim.
Thank you for all the work you did on this. That was
That's
incredible.
huge.
Good luck, town meeting.
Yes. We hope third time's a charm.
Yes.
Third time.
That's right.
All right,
Thank you for your time.
next up are the school principal updates. School principals will give a brief update on their school reopenings.
No.
Michelle, we're going youngest to oldest, age of the students. Age of the students. Sure, good.
So I like that you have that essential question. So I think this is really important, like how have schools created welcoming environments for returning students and staff. So one of the big pushes we have at Schcmte Lane is to always greet the students outside. Every single staff member is either at their door greeting kids or outside or in the hallways. And this has been one of the smoothest starts that I've ever had. This is my 8th year at Schcmte Lane. And I don't think we any crying kindergartners nor preschoolers. So this is huge. When they had to come back Thursday and then after the long weekend, then there were tears because they realized this wasn't a one-time thing. They're coming back. They have to come back. But overall, it has been the smoothest start. We're seeing our preschoolers, our 3 and 4-year-old students coming back with skills that they didn't have the past few years because of the pandemic. So I feel like we've gained some traction there. Our kindergartners are coming in with some solid skills. It has been the smoothest start. We are fully staffed at Shaker Lane. That's been the first time since 2020. That's not the case in education anywhere, secondary, post-secondary. So it's really great to start there. I feel like Harish and Raquel have spent a lot of time sharing the highlights of us, of what have happened at Shaker Lane, but we had a great back to school night. We actually only followed Russell Street's format this year, but we had one back to school night. And we offered families time to meet with our unified arts teachers, time to meet with our special education staff, ELL staff, support staff, occupational therapists, physical therapists. And then they had breakout times for about 20 minutes to 45 minutes with the classroom teachers. And it was amazing to see our unified arts teachers actually have people come because they had a dedicated time to present to them. They originally set out like 10 chairs and there ended up being like close to 30 people at their presentations. So I think they felt appreciative to have a dedicated time for themselves. We had CPAC was out with information. We had the building project information out there. Girl Scouts, we just received an email from the Girl Scout leader saying that she got such amazing feedback this year. So it was a very successful night. Lots of families there excited to hear about the year. So that was, I think, the biggest highlight and this is the earliest we've ever had it in Shaker Lane. It's usually kind of later in September. So this was a nice way to welcome the kids in. The first week K-2, then our preschool is the next week, and then our families the third week. We have our book fair next month. That is coming up pretty quickly. That's in about 3 weeks. And we have a very excited twist coming. We are going to be offering a little masked reader event that night. So I think the kids are going to be really excited. We have costumes, we have voice changers. I don't watch The Masked Singer, but I'm sure I think a lot of people do. But we're excited to offer this masked reader event during the book fair. And then we've also started some other community events. As Russell Street had mentioned, I think Harish had mentioned, we are doing our cultural fair again this year. We're partnering with Russell Street, so that's going to be really cool to have both schools there. Bino, you came last year, Kelly, Beth, Lynn, it was just such an amazing event, so we're looking forward. We have some, thank you to B. Melch. We are coordinating some dancers. So we're going to have some presentations. We're going to have Irish step dancing. We're going to have a Bollywood. And we're working with Masala Bay to have some food as well. So we're taking it to another level this year. We're very excited, especially to partner with Russell Street. So yeah, it's going to be really cool. I think the girls that were dancing last year, they were amazing.
I have a crew. I have 8 or 9 Shaker Lane Russell Street kids that said yes to dancing.
That's awesome. And we're working with Whitney McIsaac. She's going to bring over some of her Irish step dancers. So it's going to be pretty cool. So it's been a great start to the year and we're looking for a great year overall.
I just wanted to give you a quick shout out on the new newsletter format, which I know Russell Street is doing as well, but I know you had taken feedback last year. There was a survey and it's beautiful. It's easy to read. There's a link for specific things. I've been on the Russell Street one now more because that's where my kids go, but just really kudos to taking that feedback and redesigning it. It's awesome.
That's great to hear. And it was truly feedback from the families. What do you want to hear? What do you want to see? The ease of use, I do think it's kind of cool because we had designed it to be on your phone, on a tablet, and on a computer. So it's icon based.
Yeah.
So again, that was just answering parents and families what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So great. Elaine has a question. Elaine?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Michelle. It's Elaine. I'm so happy to hear that the kids are coming in with good skills this year since the pandemic. That seems like a real game changer that will move up through the system. I have a real specific question. Do you know off the top of your head the date of the cultural fair in case someone would want to, like me, want to attend?
It's not the second. But it wasn't the second. It's not the 6th.
Because
we're all looking.
I think there's no school on the 2nd, if I'm not mistaken.
November 6th, Elaine.
Yes.
November 6th? Okay, I'll consider that an invitation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes, thank you.
Principal McDonald.
Good evening, everyone. I'll make the briefest of introductions, because I'm a new face in the room. Colin McDonald, new principal of Russell Street School. Happy to be here. Prior to coming to Littleton, I was the building principal of Pembroke Elementary School in Georgetown, Massachusetts. Prior to that, I was the director of curriculum and instruction in that same district. And I have administrative and my teaching experience in Chicago before my wife and I moved back to New England. So happy to be in Littleton, and it has been a fantastic start of the school year at Russell Street. I'll back up a little bit before the start of the school year. We had the ESY, the Extended School Year Program, at Russell Street, which was great. Actually, the first day of ESY was my first day on the job, so I was welcoming students into the school, and I had no idea where I was sending them, but I was welcoming them in. And it was lovely to have students and staff in the building, and I got to meet and work with some of our kids over the summer, which was a great introduction to the school. Also over the summer, we held 3 orientation nights for our families to come in and tour the school, get to know the procedures and processes of Russell Street. Again, I had to be quick on the uptake because I was talking about arrival and buses and lunch procedures, and had to lean on Mrs. Romano to school me on all of that. But by the end, I was able to let people know what was going on. The start of the school year was fantastic, a really great first day. I was shocked at how quickly and efficiently we got cars and buses in around the turf field and through the circle. It was really, really nice. We welcomed some new staff members to the building this year, which are in the packet that you saw. And just a few new changes to Russell Street that are somewhat minor, but I wanted to mention. First off, we are now serving our morning breakfast in cafeteria at Russell Street, as opposed to last year, it was more of a grab and go, and students would have it in their classrooms. But we have supervised breakfast now, so students can have a nice breakfast for those of them that need it in the morning, and when they get in the cafeteria in one place, and after the morning announcements, they're off with their day. Another update is, or something that's new for our Unified Arts, is that our students rotate through the 4 Unified Arts on Tuesday through Friday. But on that Monday this year, we offered a Unified Arts elective for some of our students so that they could choose a different UA to attend. And for the first round, we're doing them in 6-week increments. Our first round, Ms. Wyzakowski, our music teacher, is offering a digital music Unified Arts elective. Ms. Henley, our PE teacher, is offering a running and walking goals UA, where students will use the track outside in the nice weather to set some goals for their walking or running benchmarks, and try to time themselves and track their progress throughout that 6 weeks. And Ms. Morton, our librarian, is running a UA called Stories Are Super, where she's collected a bunch of stories that have to do with superheroes and superpowers. So our students made those selections on Monday, and they'll start that UA elective this coming Monday. So we're excited for that. Some upcoming things. Our back to school night is this coming Monday from 6 to 8. So we look forward to having all of our families there. The one small tweak to that this year is Mrs. Romano and I are going to meet with families prior to the classroom presentations, just so people can get to put a name to a face and meet me. And Mrs. Romano is going to make some updates on some attendance initiatives that we have going on at Russell Street. Picture day is the following day on Tuesday, 17th. So dress your best. And I'd like to close just by saying what a warm welcome that I felt at Littleton. It's been really a joy to be here so far, and I really look forward to making the most of this year and beyond. So
Great. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Thank you.
yeah, Jason, you gotta get everybody back in the hat. It's the first,
The opening middle school year has been fantastic. I've had several teachers this week say that this is probably the best opening that they've experienced, at least since COVID, and in many cases prior to COVID, which is great. when you have people that are feeling comfortable. We had a couple significant changes to our program of studies last year, and so that, going through that for the first time, people are coming in. We added a second ELA teacher, we have a seventh grade math. So now that we're into our second full year, those teachers are feeling comfortable with the program. A lot of the work we do, because the move from elementary school to middle school is a significant change. And so the work we do to make students feel welcome really happens during the summer. We have tours. You'd be surprised how many families ask for individual tours because their child is anxious and they just want to see the building on their own without the crowd. So we certainly welcome that. Anything we can do to make sure that kids feel welcome when they come in so that they're not overwhelmed by the process. We hosted a family cookout, a few days before school started to welcome the families and get them involved and start to build those partnerships. The biggest thing that we're doing is, in order to make students feel welcome, is really doubling down on the idea that I want every student in that building to have a connection with an adult. I brought in Dr. Alex Hirschberg yesterday for a 2-hour PD, and he'll be coming back in a couple of weeks. And he talked about how students today, so very different than many of us when we grew up. Most of us didn't want to hang out with teachers and spend time with teachers, but students today, they crave it. And so we as leaders of the school, right, our adults have to provide opportunities. And so what we want to make sure to do is create an environment where that can happen. So in the course of that professional development, we're going to be looking at trauma-informed instruction. How do we handle these kind of situations so that we are bringing students back into the fold if they're anxious or in some cases depressed and not sure about what middle school is going to be like. We want that to be something that we handle right away. In addition to that, we placed QR codes on the back of every stall door in the school so that students, if they're being harassed or bullied, we can never know how many students never report it. And I thought about that a lot over the summer, and it's something that I feel very, very strongly about. We get students and parents who will say, my kid is being harassed or my kid is being bullied. But what about the ones that you never hear from? And so what this is an opportunity for students to anonymously report if they or a friend of theirs is being harassed by somebody. And by doing it on the inside of the stall doors, they're not taking a picture of the QR code in front of everybody else. It's private, they can do it. Thankfully, we haven't had anybody use it yet, but we anticipate at some point in time. I just want to make sure that we are taking every opportunity we can to reach those students. So I feel like what we created is a real culture of positivity in our building, of excitement, but also supported with the idea that every student should have the same advantages and opportunities, not just academically, but in terms of social education and connection with adults. And so that's what we are doing to open the school year. And so far, 10, 12 days in, it's been a great success.
Questions, comments?
I just have a quick question. I love the QR code idea, especially where you placed it. Students can take phones into the bathroom?
You want the truth or the truth? No, they're not supposed to have their phones on them, but let's be honest, sometimes they have them. And
Okay.
so when that's the case, that's there. We also email the same link to a Google
Okay.
form so they can do it on their own after school or at home. But sometimes it's easier to catch in the moment. We just want to make sure that we're, casting a white net. Ideally, they're not taking their phones into the bathroom, but
Yeah. Yeah, but it's
that's-
emailed to them also.
Yes, yeah, so every student should have access.
Yeah.
Can I ask, since we're on that topic, what are our policies for phones, lunch, recess? What are we doing this year?
So we're continuing what we've been doing. Our 6th grade team 2 years ago said we want to eliminate cell phones from, we were just seeing kids not interacting with each other. And so it became, a part of what we really believe to say, how do we make this happen? So we banned all technology at lunch, cell phones, watches, Chromebooks, all of that. So as those kids matriculate, we just keep that going. So this will be the first year that the entire lunch process, 6, 7, and 8, no cell phones, no technology. And we haven't had to confiscate a phone. We haven't had to remind anybody. The 8th graders, they're used to it. They're doing it even when they go outside to eat. They're not on their phones. It's just become a part of it. It's just so wonderful to see kids talking and playing and interacting in ways that we didn't necessarily between 2017 and 2023. So we're very happy about that. Rarely do we have much of a cell phone issue anymore. I think because that was the biggest time And, the passing periods are so short that they don't really have time to be on their phones, and our teachers are very vigilant about phone pockets and boxes to put them in, so the whole school has gotten behind this idea. We want to make sure that their phones are in teacher possession, or at least in the front of the classroom while class is happening, and during the lunches. Our teachers who do lunch duty, we have all staff do lunch duty, so every person in the building at some point in time does lunch duty, so we're all invested, and we all have a role to play in making sure this happens. One of my worries has always been with cell phone policies is, if a sixth grade teacher has to confront an eighth grade student about their cell phone, somebody who maybe has moved in, after sixth grade, how do you get everybody to be a part of it? And this way, we're able to do that. So we're bringing in the counselors and the psychologists and everybody is a part of that too. So it's more of a whole school investment. I think we're definitely seeing the payoff on that.
Thank you. Maybe like a progress with that. I'd love
Yeah,
seeing that.
it's been
really
great. Yeah, to be honest, I thought it was gonna be more of a fight. And it's, the first year was a little bit, but after that, it's just now how we do business. So it's
Yeah.
great.
Love it.
Yeah.
Good job.
I had the opportunity to attend the back to school event. I thought you guys knocked it out of the park. Great job. All the parents got welcomed. We moved throughout the building pretty well. We got to all of our kids' classes. I was very impressed with the seventh grade team.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'd be very impressed with every team, but I had the individual pleasure of meeting all those folks.
Yeah.
So job well done, and it's
Thank you.
off to an exciting school year.
We've had a fair amount of turnover since COVID. And I'm really proud of the hiring that we've done. And I think we have a staff that is hungry and wants to do well and is invested in students. And I think, you would know as a parent if that wasn't the case when you're sitting in those classrooms. So if you're feeling that, the kids are feeling it. I'm very proud of the staff that we have and what they're doing. Great. All right. Thank you. All right.
We're clapping for John coming in.
Thank you very much. A nice welcome, the spirit of the agenda tonight. So how we created a welcoming environment for students and staff, and, very much in line with my colleagues at the other schools. We did have our back to school night. You had mentioned that just recently. That was a terrific opportunity for parents to feel connected to teachers and get to know a little bit about the school. We did learn a little bit about, at the outset of that, how we might distribute schedules differently. It was an old way we did it, but we'll back to that in terms of having them get that in advisory instead of, it'll start the evening a little bit smoother in terms of our back to school night with parents. But there's tons of energy and enthusiasm in the building. You both know Fernando and I, and actually Meg Wazinski, our SRO, often joins us with her dog Rhett to greet students upon arrival at school. So that's a nice opportunity to sort of wave to parents as they do the drop off and check in with kids. Julie Elmore is down with her dog Archie, greeting students as they get off the school buses at a different part of the building. So that's a nice way for students to, they can't always be there every day, but it's a nice way for students to feel connected right upon arrival. We made a real concerted effort to be there for the first few weeks of school, and we've continued that, and the wonderful weather that we've had has really helped with that. We did have similar to other folks, we start this process in the summer with personalized tours as well for new students who are school choice or new to the area, or just feeling anxious about their arrival at the high school if they're coming up to 8th grade. So we did conduct those tours in the summer. We also had a new student orientation led by peer leaders. That was very successful and nice way to help the kids feel a sense of belonging right at the outset. I and Mr. Coe, I hosted class meetings with school counselors. We met with all the individual grade levels to go over expectations and just help them feel that while they'll be challenged, they'll also be supported along the way. And to please, seek out any guidance, or don't be afraid to ask for help for any of the staff if they have any concerns. We do have an advisory model at the high school, and we made sure to have our advisory sessions during flex block for the first 2 weeks of school, so they could make that strong connection with their fellow classmates, but also with their advisor. The advisor, as from previous presentations, wrote loops with the student. They'll advise for freshman year, and that person will stay with them for 4 years, provided they stay on staff. And for the most part, we have a very consistent staff. We had PD, professional development, yesterday, focused on social emotional learning and character strong advisory curriculum. It went over very well. I checked in with the facilitators. I want to thank Dr. Tracy Turner and Jen Fudo for facilitating this. Meredith Perry, health and wellness coordinator, was also involved with planning. And it was terrific. It's and the focus actually is right at tonight's agenda. It was about creating a sense of community, of belonging and well-being, and encouraging that. How we're going to do that throughout our advisory model and our character strong curriculum. And so that one of the activities that they will have on Monday is a to be challenge. And that is where the students will be challenged to be welcoming and inviting. Challenge yourself to talk to somebody new and find out at least one thing about them, or invite someone to participate, joining you at lunch or an activity. And so that's something that all the students will experience when they engage in this activity on Monday. And we'll continue these to be challenges each month. The Character Strong will be, there's 10 sessions, so we'll go throughout the course of the school year. And it's real focus, of course, is social emotional learning. And I imagine we're providing more updates to you at future meetings about that. The other thing to mention, I guess, is we have our college playing night, but I think you already did that. That's coming up on September 24th. And we have our homecoming dance on October 18th, where we bring the whole school together for a nice night of dancing in front of the school, at the school. And happy to answer any questions, but that's sort of where we're at. Smooth start, really happy to report that.
Have the high school athletes been kind of disappointed with the Triple E threat and needing to move the games to Saturday
I
afternoons
think
and stuff?
adjusting, we haven't heard, I mean, you can speak more to that. You're right there. You know, I haven't heard too many complaints just yet. But, you know, I think they certainly the football team would want to be under the lights.
Sure.
And the other teams as well, when they have an opportunity to play at alumni field.
Yeah.
They enjoy that. But they know it's just, you know, our kids are very resilient, adaptive after what they've been through in their schooling experience over the last, 5 years, certainly 3 years. And I think they're responding well, and they know it's out of their control. So
Yeah, hopefully temporary.
yeah, I hope so. But we'll see how long it lasts.
We just need a hard freeze, or hard frost. That's what I'm.
We haven't had it in the.
No, it
forecast
doesn't
ahead.
look like
So
it's
a beautiful
coming.
weekend in the 80s.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. We have our first football game of the season at 12 noon on Saturday, and the weather is beach weather.
Justin Elaine has a question, Elaine?
Yeah, thanks. This is actually for all of the principals that presented. I'm very grateful, all that you're doing to create welcoming communities for the students and staff. So that's really meets our essential question for the meeting tonight. One of the things that I do as the clerk of the school committee is submit information every month for the town newsletter. And so I've been taking notes, so I'll summarize what you all said about the opening of school, which is so much good news. If any of you have photos that you could send me of any of the things that you were talking about, if there are students in the photos, of course, they'd have to have media permission. I'm thinking also of Michelle was mentioning there were some chalk drawings that were welcoming students on the sidewalk. Any of that, what I've learned in the past is if I don't provide photos of what I'm writing about, then they just insert a picture of your school building. And we can do way better than that. So anyway, so if you could just send it to my school committee email, that would be great. I'm going to be putting together our submission next week. So thank you in advance.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Job well done, everybody. All right, new business item number 5, district portrait of a learner. Superintendent Clench, you will update the school committee on the new initiative.
So I'm going to speed things up a bit here. I know our presentation on fields, tennis courts and Wickham Field took a lot longer than we thought, which is good. A good discussion. Over the summer, I had an opportunity to really dig into how does one take a vision that is well written on paper and convert it into something that we truly aspire to live by. We've talked about Portrait of a Graduate. It's been around, 14 years now. And you've heard me talk in previous school committee meetings about the importance of identifying culminating skill sets that our students need when they transition from one school to the next school. So looking around, and John and I met a couple of times this summer, we knew that there were districts in the nation seeking out to develop a portrait of a learner for all students, from when they enter school to they graduate. And we found a district, Mendon Upton School District, that has done this. The co-principals of the 6 to 12 regional high school had developed a portrait of the graduate originally about 12 years ago. And they took on the leadership role of working to develop a portrait of a learner for the district. So we invited the co-principals to our retreat this summer and spent about 4 hours with them, and they helped us develop a roadmap so that we can start this process this year. It's not going to happen quickly. We're hoping by the end of the year we'll have a pretty good draft, and then in the fall we can finalize it. But you can see by the model that I've included in the package, it's really nice to identify those key areas that we all would like our students to provide it prior to graduation, and again, starting right when they enter school. But I'm sure you've heard me in the past talk about I can statements. So if you scroll down to the document, I know we don't have a lot of time left. I want to try to get us out of here at 9. There are I can statements, and what's powerful about this is every school in our district can develop I can statements that use vocabulary that students can relate to. So at the end of an activity, a teacher can talk to their students and talk about solution seeker, for example, and they can say, I can, da 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 da. And that's so powerful because your students are involved at a level that they truly relate to and understand, rather than having the staff involved, the students really not figuring out what this is. I mean, UDL, our students know what UDL is, but they can't use the terminology. So our task, when I talked to the admin team just this week, was here's a good example of how we can convert language that's going to be applicable to different age levels of our students and start using I can statements to have them better understand, the language associated with UDL. And that's really important. If you want students to thrive and continue to be passionate learners, you have to give them those skills in that language and help them understand that bigger picture. So I'm really excited about this. I knew there was something out there. Just took us a while to figure out somebody that had an example that we were proud to take a look at, and they've helped us immensely, even with the 4 hours that we spent together. Dr. Harrington and the staff have worked hard on a portrait of a graduate. We're hoping that some of that work, if not all of it, can be used in taking a broader sweep of developing a portrait of a learner. And we're really excited about this. I mean, we all have great visions. You go to any school district, vision statement's incredible. But what's missing is how often do we talk about our vision? We don't. It's in our strategic plan, but this brings it to life every single day. And this is so exciting to me as an educational leader who has always believed that our students need to come along with us, and they need to be part of what we do as a school district. So again, very excited about this. We'll keep you posted as the year goes on. Mrs. Steele and I have developed a process. We unraveled that process at our administrative meeting this week. So we're already starting the journey, so to speak. Any questions on that? Thank you.
This is like a district-wide
Pardon?
thing, like just at the bottom of this, it says Knitbook had like 32 students across and 47 students participate. Is this something
They
where
will.
students buy in? Like,
Yes, we'll involve students in this process as well. Which really interesting to me, Nipmuc High School has portrait of a learner profiles for some of their high school students. So they develop laminated cards, and these students talk about how the portrait of a learner helped them become who they are as a graduate, and how it's going to help them in their postgraduate studies. So I mean, they have done an incredible job. I mean, I looked around for a while, and it's really nice to find somebody in the state of Massachusetts that's done this. We're really excited to continue our partnership with them.
that's great.
Elaine has a question.
Elaine, you have a question?
Yeah, hi. I'm really excited about this initiative. I've always thought that Portrait of a Graduate initiatives were not taking into account all of the work that happens at the grade levels below high school. So this feels very inclusive. My question is, we've got so many statements out there already, like we've got our vision statement, we've got our district strategic plan, we've got school improvement plans. Once this program becomes implemented, is it going to draw upon all of those other documents so that it doesn't become yet another thing that overlays the other documents?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it will be interconnected. Everything has to connect. And if you don't connect everything, you're just not gonna achieve what you've set out to achieve. So the vision, the mission to me, a mission statement is, what does an organization need to do to be successful? And if you can't accomplish your mission, then you really need to reassess what you're doing. Because you're not meeting what your organization is supposed to do. So that's just kind of standard. Your vision is, where do you want to go? How are you going to get there? And so this takes the strategic plan, the mission part of the strategic plan. I mean, that's what we're doing, and we incorporated the vision into our SIPs already and our strategic plan. So now what we're doing is we're creating a document or a schematic, more correctly, and we're making ICANN statements. It's going to interconnect everything. So there's going to be no disconnect when we're done. Does that answer your question, Lee?
Yes, beautifully. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, keep rolling.
Sure. Next on the agenda, we talked a bit about the school committee presentation schedule, and I'd like to thank Elaine when we were together as a school committee superintendent retreat this summer. One of the things we talked about is how do we better integrate this strategic plan into what we're doing at the school committee level. I mean, that is a guiding document for all of us. And Elaine came up with the ideas that we have before us tonight, and it does a nice connection with the understanding that not everything is going to relate to that particular standard, but there will be part of the meeting that is directly related to the standard. So it's going to help us keep the strategic plan in the forefront of what we're doing, which is really important. And if you don't have any questions on that, I'll turn it over to Steve Mark to give us financial update.
Okay. So reports are in your packet. Again, this is the first report really being presented for the year. This is really the first 3 months. Our fiscal year starts in July. So there's really no concerns here. Again, by way of explanation, under the encumbrances, that minus 345. Again, this happened last year, happens this year. It's because FY24 is still open. Town hasn't closed it. And so what we, at the end of 24, any funds, any projects, any supplies that we had ordered in 24 that didn't come in, we carry those money forward into FY25. So this is reflective of those payments. But the money that was carried forward isn't reflected because they haven't closed 24. So it's a munis accounting issue where the funds are still in 24, they haven't rolled into 25. So that's why that shows up as a negative number. As soon as the town closes the books, all their finances will match up timing wise, and that number will go away and be more of a realistic number. But at this point in time, there's no issues under the appropriated budget. The second page that's in the report is, and again, these are preliminary numbers. The town is still closing the books. These are where we ended June 30th of 24 with our revolving funds. So it shows school choice, circuit breaker, the athletic fund, the kindergarten fund, all of those funds are reported in here. You can see the balances. They're good, healthy balances that allows us to really be financially secure if something unexpected happens. So glad to answer questions if there are any.
Just two quick questions come to mind on the second page, the school lunch line item.
Yep.
Can you just explain with school lunches being free statewide, how are for fiscal year 2024, it would seem like it should be a wash, right? Like we provide school lunches and then we're reimbursed, and at the end of the day, it's net zero to us. But this looks like we received 1.1, almost 1.2, and we spent $1 million.
Correct. We're actually, our expenses are covered by the reimbursement we get from federal programs and state programs. So we're actually making money in the cafeteria program for the first time ever. So we're investing some of those funds back into the program. We're upgrading the equipment, buying better food products.
And the additional revenue comes from those that are buying items outside of this.
Yep, they can buy a la carte items
Yeah,
as well.
okay.
Yep.
That was kind of my question.
Yep.
And then the building use. We took a loss on that last year.
Yeah, we did because.
What is that line item for?
So that's when we rent out the Performing Arts Center, or we rent out the gyms or the fields to some outside group or something.
Yeah.
Most of the revenue in that comes from renting out the Performing Arts Center. And we rent that out to a lot of dance studios and things like that.
So the revenue was about the same, but the expenses were up. So did we run into sort of extraordinary expenses related to that?
Well, that and the revenues weren't up because we were still recovering from the shutting down for COVID.
Okay.
And so a lot of programs are now coming back to us, looking for rental now that their programs are ramped up after COVID. So a lot more dance programs are coming and saying, hey, we're now doing dance recitals and things like that. So our revenues are back up for that.
Okay.
Yep.
Good by me.
Yep. Anything else? All right, thank you very much.
Perfect. Second opportunity for interested citizens. Hearing none, we'll move on. Subcommittee reports. I think we can roll through these pretty quickly and try to get out of here. So the first one on the agenda is PMBC.
PMBC covers school building committee essentially, so we've done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Budget subcommittee. This is our first meeting of the year. We don't have anything to report, but the budget subcommittee will look to schedule a meeting and get going in the budget cycle. Policy subcommittee.
We're idle at this point in time. We'll be in November or so, we'll get back together.
Perfectly fine. Are there any other subcommittee reports or any other business which wishes to be brought before the school committee from the members? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Sure.
Motion made by Stacy. Seconded by Bino. This will be a roll call vote. Elaine,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Bino,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Justin votes aye as well. We have adjourned. Not bad. Thank you.